my uncle, I was showing my uncle who lived in Japan for years, I was showing him an episode of Cowboy Bebop because I was like, this show's so good. And we were watching it in Japanese with subtitles. This was maybe 10 years ago.
One of the filler
episodes. And it just
episodes.
so happened to be, well, it wasn't, it was a very, there was stuff going on in the show that just made me really like awkward and feel really weird about watching it with my uncle. And like we ended up watching something else because I was like, it's usually different than that. It was basically the exact same thing as this game.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. This is our monthly exclusive podcast for our patrons and our subscribe stars. This month, we're going to be talking about Undertale. That was the game that was voted for.
Finally,
I doubt
got this.
very much that we will get through the whole game.
Yeah.
We gotta rush him to the train station right on time. And there's more notes than I realized I was going to have for this game.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to break it into two.
There is so much going on in this game,
Yeah.
and it would be a shame to rush through it.
Yes.
This is one of the more important games that I've ever played, actually.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's how you feel about it?
I have a lot to say about that.
That's awesome.
Unfortunately, it is very difficult to articulate.
Yes.
But
I love this game.
me too.
This is one of my favorite games ever.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. But in ways that are just so hard to articulate.
Yes,
in my
because it's so unconventional.
Oh, totally.
In a lot of ways.
I remember, so I played this once on my own, and then I had this thought, like, my wife would love this game.
Yes.
So then I played it again with her, and she just loves the witty,
Yes.
comedy of the script and how well written it is, and how there's a joke. Every 2 minutes,
Pretty
there's a
much
joke.
all the time.
And, like, the whole game. I like my fifth note here. I can't remember what it is. What the heck is going on? Like, I'm starting to take notes. Yeah, there's Toriel. Okay, things are flowy, and I'm like, what is this game?
I did not.
What is happening?
I think I failed to prep you for this.
No,
because we
I had
always
heard of
talk
the
like
game.
very seriously about games.
Yes,
and
yes.
and these very sort of profound artistic
and this is
thematic experiences.
a profound.
It is.
It's different though.
It's just really silly all the time.
So it's
and
a
I don't
complete
know
joke.
if I let you know that that's what you should expect from it.
But honestly, I like not having known that because
Yeah.
you can see once I take that note, what the heck is going on? My next note says, I don't know how to analyze this game. I really don't. I don't think I have the proper tools.
Yeah.
And I hold to that today, but I did flesh out my thinking a little bit more in some subsequent notes, but that was the last note I took for the entirety of my entire first gameplay.
Yeah.
Was at that point. It was about 20 minutes into the game where I was like, I don't know what to take notes on. Everything's a joke. And what is important? What do I need to know?
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And so, but I just want people to understand how incredibly important this game is and how everyone in the world should play it. But I can't tell you why. I don't think I'm going to try, but I don't think I'm going to adequately be able to explain why this game is so good.
Well,
and it's so funny because we've been analyzing games for years and years and years. And I have encountered something that I am
not sure.
I can tell how important it is. I just can't tell you. Other than to say it's important, play it.
Yeah.
Play this game.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll be able to get there by bouncing off each other because it is hard to analyze this game.
It is. It's really hard. We can analyze the jokes.
Yeah.
It's like that joke was pretty good. This one was all right.
This was
a funny
pretty
joke.
much. It's like 99% they land.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy.
Most of the time they land. Yeah.
So let's just jump into it. I guess I'll say this. I don't think this is going to be much of a plot analysis.
I don't know how
because
it could be. Yeah.
The plot is not that crazy.
It's the characters. It's the theme.
Yes.
It's the situation. It's not so much the actual storyline of events.
We've talked about many times on the podcast, going back to before we had this format, the marriage of a game's systems and mechanics and the story it's telling.
Yeah.
For a lot of games, those things aren't really thought about. They're almost separate entirely. You have cutscenes where the story is told, and then you have the game you play, and they're not the same thing.
That's almost always
the term that some game journalist reviewer came up with to describe that is ludonarrative dissonance.
Ludonarrative dissonance.
I think that's been used to a point in video essaying to where people are kind of, they still roll their eyes at the term.
Right.
But, it's the only other word I have for it.
Yeah.
This game tells its story through playing the game, not through dialogue and cutscenes. I mean, those are part of it. Like it has a plot, but the plot is basically humans and monsters had a war.
Yeah, they used to not get along.
The monsters went to this underground world where they were sealed inside.
Yeah.
And a child goes and falls into that world and is trying to get back to the human realm again.
You got some Alice in Wonderland. You've got, it sounds on its surface, that is the typical Arc story.
Yeah.
It's the most usual story ever that,
Yeah.
you know, something happens and now they're in the underworld and they have to make it back out and maybe save some people along the way.
It's really simple.
That is how all stories tend to go.
But
it's the journey. It's the hero's journey.
The plot, as summarized or described that way, is not really what Undertale is about.
No.
And so that's what we're going to try to explain. Yeah. And I have had the same fears because we've put this off, I think, 3 months now.
Yeah.
because I have never, and I still don't feel equipped to actually analyze this game.
And it's so, because you would assume, based on us saying that it's not really worth playing. But that is so not the case.
Definitely not.
It is so worth playing. And I listened to other people's analyses. I really tried to get a hold on what other people feel. And a lot of people get really, really into the particulars of the game. And we're not going into the lore. Like a little bit, sure, but not like super deep into all that stuff.
Lore has never really been the point of this podcast. Yeah.
Basically, I've seen that there is something of a consensus.
Oh, fetch me. I'm not going back, but I just keep talking because I got to switch the signs behind us. We got Metal Gear behind us right now.
Oh my gosh, hello people. Okay.
We need Undertale, dude.
So, a lot of the analyses that I listen, it's a similar issue where they're analyzing the game in general, but they're talking about the themes in a way that it just doesn't work as well. It doesn't seem like they're actually analyzing the game properly. But I don't think this game can be analyzed properly. And in some ways, that's a thumbs up to Toby. But I also came to this other weird realization that not only can this game not be properly analyzed without making it just seem like an utter joke.
Yeah.
I almost think this game should not be analyzed. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
When you analyze something that's really valuable and important, you tend to kind of dissect it and pull it apart and see its inner workings and say, oh, this is why this happens and this is how this worked. And you kind of kill it in the process. Now, we analyze games, we do this, we dig into them. This particular game is one that even if I somehow found out how to properly dissect this game, I wouldn't want to do it necessarily because it would ruin the magic of this game. Okay.
I can see what you mean by that.
Okay.
Okay, so start from the beginning. This little kid. It's left vague on purpose, the sex or gender.
Yes.
I think because this is definitely supposed to be an avatar for the player type.
Yes,
character.
but you don't get to build your own character.
Right.
So yeah, it's
so could be male or female.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want it to be, really. Falls through to this underground world. The first character you encounter down there is a little flower named Flowey.
Seems
very
nice.
Happy music. He's smiling.
Here's the friendship pellets.
Yes. Howdy, I'm Flowey, Flowey the flower. You're new to the underground, aren't you? Golly, you must be so confused. Somebody ought to teach you how things work around here. I guess the little old me will have to do. Ready? Here we go. See that heart? That's your soul. So this is explaining the mechanics of the game. You have a heart kind of in a little box at the bottom. This is what they call a bullet hell type game, right?
Yes.
You're basically going to be dodging things all the time. Things will be coming at you and you'll have to move out of the way and not take hits. That's how combat sort of works.
More or less important to point out that you are the heart. You aren't the character dodging everything. You are the heart, right?
Yes.
For later, that's important.
Right. It's hugely important. Because they bring it up kind of right from the beginning. That is your soul. The heart is your soul. Soul is capitalized. I think that's capitalized for a reason.
I think so.
The very culmination of your being. Your soul starts off weak, but you can grow strong if you gain a lot of LV. Typically, in RPGs, LV stands for your level.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that Toby Fox said he really wanted to do when he made this game was subvert a lot
Yes.
of conventions of RPGs that to him don't make a lot of sense.
He did that.
Yes.
He subverted things. He basically takes everything you know about games and stories and just turns it upside down and then shakes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually you would think LV stands for level.
Yes.
He says, what's LV stand for? Why, love, of course.
Love. Yes.
Now we're going to learn later that love stands for something even else. But we'll just go with that for now.
Yeah.
You want love, don't you? Don't worry, I'll share some with you. Down here, love is shared through little white friendliness pellets.
Yep.
Are you ready? Move around and get as many as you can.
Yep.
Now, at this point, if you're privy to what's going on,
You can avoid them.
dodge the
Yeah.
pellets.
And he's like, what are
And
you
he's
doing?
like, what are you doing? You're supposed to
Yeah.
get the friendliness. And he
Yeah.
does it again. And if you continue to dodge them, his face turns dark. You know what's going on, don't you?
Yeah.
And so there's a different line. But on your first playthrough, you probably
You would.
do
You
what
would,
he said.
Which is what I did.
Yeah.
I go and get the pellets and then, you idiot. It's so perfect. They do this multiple times throughout the
Yeah.
game, but just whenever things just stop and it's like a record, you know, you idiot.
In
and
this
he's got
world-
this screwed up smile.
Yeah, it's like pretty dark face, right?
Yeah.
In this world, it's kill or be killed. Why would anyone pass up on an opportunity like this? Die. And then you're surrounded by the pellets and they're coming in on you.
Yeah.
Boo, 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 boo. And then Toriel comes in and saves you.
Knocks him away and then
Yeah.
comes back. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't mind him.
Yeah.
And Toriel is about the nicest little
Motherly cow monster lady.
that you'll ever just meet. Oh,
Yep.
just so fun. She's holding your hand, literally holding your hand through the first area of the game.
Yep.
And then comes out and says, hey, I'm going to let go of your hand. I'm going to move further ahead.
I freaking love this,
But
dude.
just don't worry, it'll be okay. And you just walk through this long maze, and
Yeah.
there's nothing to do. And then she comes back out. Oh, I was just testing your independence. Like the cutest possible thing. I think that was the point where I realized that this game is different.
Yeah.
Because the Flowey thing is okay, that was clever, clever. But then Toriel, which is tutorial, right? It's
Yes.
short for the word
Yes.
tutorial. So she's the tutorial section of the game, and she's literally holding your hand, which is what
Yes.
the tutorials do.
Right.
But then she comes in this clever way of doing a tutorial that's just funny. It's not even that you learn that much about. This game plays, it's a bullet hell game. It's pretty straightforward, the battle. Just don't get hit by things.
Yeah.
And then you're just moving around on the map and you have your interaction button. There's not much to it, right? Yet she insists on teaching us very directly how to do things. She really wants to protect us. She wants to keep us safe from any and all danger. There's even that part at the end of that room where she goes, okay, now push the button that I've marked out.
Yes,
And
I marked it for you.
You push the other button and she's like,
no,
what are you doing?
that's the wrong one.
Wrong
I
button.
marked it for you.
But she's just so unbelievably kind, just
Yeah.
so incredibly nice. And you kind of wonder where this is going.
Toby Fox mentions that his hatred of companion characters like Fee in Skyward Sword, who reveal the answers to puzzles before
Yes.
you solve them.
Yeah.
And the hand-holding that happens in many games today for tutorializing things. His frustration with that led to the creation of the character as a parody of that.
As just a joke.
As a literal hand-holding you through
Yes.
the section and making sure you know exactly what to do and you cannot do the other thing,
Yeah.
and testing your independence to walk right across the screen straight in a straight line.
Yes.
And I love how when that
Just
happens,
making sure.
danger music comes on. It's
Oh, yeah.
ding,
Ding, ding, ding. You really think something's going to happen.
and you're just walking.
When nothing happens, that's the joke.
Yes.
And it's funny.
Yeah,
It's funny.
really funny.
I just can't believe it.
it's really clever.
And with all the dialogue and the way a lot of the battles go, you get a very Earthbound-y feel. This
Yes.
is very similar to the game Earthbound, which is also very silly.
A huge inspiration.
Very
There's actually
silly.
many calls and references to other games that
Yeah.
he was inspired
Well,
by.
Toby Fox had done a port of Mother 3, I think.
What Kaysen is referring to here are ROM hacks of Earthbound, not a Mother 3 port, but his own sort of fan-created games using ROM hacks of Earthbound. So just wanted to put that correction out there.
So you get to a section here where she leaves you for a second, or there's a dummy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I found this actually pretty important too.
Mm-hmm.
Flowey serves as the tutorial for how to fight in this game.
Yeah.
And Toriel serves as the tutorial for how to interact
How not to fight.
and not fight and stall for
Yeah.
time until she can come back and resolve the conflict for you.
Yes. That's
So she
good.
teaches you how to talk to, interact with
Yeah.
monsters. Flowey taught you how to kill things.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing in this game. You can choose to do one or the other. And doing so will affect the ending. So there's 3 endings in the game, which we'll get to when we actually get to the end of the game. But it depends on how much or how little killing you do.
Yeah.
How much befriending the monsters, which was an inspiration from Shin Megami Tensei.
Oh, cool. That's
know.
right. Where you kind of recruit them to come join your team. That's
And that sort of expanded as he developed the game
pretty
into,
cool.
we'll do a whole run where you don't kill any
You just
monsters.
recruit
You
everyone.
just
Yeah.
talk to them and figure out how to non-violently resolve the conflict.
Yeah. Talk about turning RPGs on their head. That is crazy.
Yes. And I love this. One thing he said he doesn't love about, kind of like classical RPGs is that monster mobs are very forgettable to him. These are his words, not mine. Outside of their designs, like you just kill them over and over and over again. They're not characters.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make each monster a real, memorable character in this game. So that leads into the whole interacting with them gives you, if you just fight and kill things in this game, like there's a lot you'll miss. A lot of cleverness in the designs of the monsters.
Yeah. I can't imagine playing this game and doing that.
Yeah.
So I did, I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as fun.
Not
It
even
wouldn't
close.
be as interesting.
Not even close.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about a few examples of monsters that I really loved. And just an example of the humor in general.
Yeah.
That we're not going to call to every example. Just know it's literally all the time.
Everything you fight is a joke.
On
in
every
one way or
screen,
another.
you're having a joke.
Yes.
On every fight, you're having a joke.
Yes.
It's filled with humor. So one example of a non-combat humor is you come to a sign you read on the wall. There's a rock in the room. It says, the sign says 3 out of 4 gray rocks recommend that you push them. It's like that kind of witty way
That's
of
great.
tutorializing things,
Yes.
right? You're
Instead
supposed
of
to push
telling you
this
what
rock.
to do, it's a little riddle, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's all the signs say funny things like that. So there's a spider bake sale going on that comes up later in the game.
Yeah, that's
it's
great.
Again, the whole Chekhov's gun principle. You don't just introduce something unless it's going to be important later.
Right.
He does not do that. If he's showing you something, it's going to come up again.
Yeah.
He's going to reuse that later. So
Which is part of the genius there. Because he brings up so much stuff.
Yeah, the spider bake sale is not a throwaway funny thing. It's he's
Right.
going to use that again later.
That's the point. That's why this game's so hard to analyze. All the stuff that you thought was just a throwaway joke, it actually is meaningful, and the whole game itself becomes more and more meaningful in that same sense. I love with the spider bake sale. It says made by spiders for spiders of spiders. The cookie's made of spiders. Oh, it's great. It's great.
And you can choose to pay some money for a cookie or not, and that choice will
have an effect later on. Yeah.
So here's some of the monsters that I took down as being very memorable to me. So there's Loox, Loox. He has one eye, so it's about look, right? Like looks.
Yes.
And he keeps saying, "Please don't pick on me."
I know.
And so you
so
go
funny.
into act,
and you could pick on him.
You can choose pick on him or don't pick on him.
Yes.
And if you say don't pick on him, he goes, "Finally, someone gets it."
It's so good. It's so good.
And then you can spare them or have mercy, and they'll just go away, and they won't fight you.
Oh my
Now, if you don't fight monsters, you spare them, you get no experience points.
You don't, and you never get more HP.
So you'll never level up.
Yeah.
You'll never get more love, LV, right?
Yeah.
Or experience. You do get money though.
Yes, you do get money.
So the game actually becomes harder the less you fight because you'll get equipment and stuff that will raise your defense, but you don't get more HP. You can sleep at inns and get over your maximum HP.
Oh, right.
If you sleep at an inn, you'll go to 30 out of 20 or something like that. But that's it. You're not raising your HP to be able to take more hits or whatever. So Migosp is another one. He does this little dance, the little thing where you do the wave with your hand and back to that side again. Like that little animation. I can't do it, but it's just funny.
Oh,
you have
that's great.
vegetoids, which they say things like farmed locally
Yes, yeah.
while they're fighting you, and they're like throwing stuff at you. Eat your greens,
Eat your
part of a
greens.
balanced breakfast.
And technically, the green dots actually heal you.
Yeah,
whereas
if you
the
go
white
to the
ones
green
hurt
ones.
You.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Here for your health, fresh morning taste, contains vitamin A. This is
Yes.
what the characters are saying as they're fighting you. Just funny. There's a snow drake that's telling bad jokes and puns.
Yes.
And if you choose laugh, then he says things like, see, laughs, Dad was wrong.
Yeah, Dad was wrong. I knew it. I am funny.
You have Ice Cap, who has a hat, right, like an ice hat, and he's desperate for attention. And if you're ignoring him, he gets pissed, but like, he says, hello, my hat is up here. Mm-hmm. He's trying to get you to look at his hat. Some of the dogs are the funniest characters.
The dogs are the funniest, absolutely.
Doggo, one of kind of like a boss character almost, he's part of the Royal Guard.
Yeah.
He can't see things unless they move. So if something's holding still, he can't see it. This is the tutorial for the part of the game's combat where if you see a blue object coming at you, you have to hold still and let it pass you.
Yes, yeah.
So he's tutorializing this element of the combat with a character who can't see things unless they move. So you have to hold still.
That's so genius.
Clever. It's
very
really clever.
Yeah.
So he says, did something just move, or was it just my imagination? I can only see things if they move, or I can only see moving things. If something was moving, for example, a human, I'll make sure it never moves. And then he starts attacking you, right? And so you have an option to go in there and pet.
Yes.
And he freaks out.
He freaks out. Whoa, petting.
I've been pet. Where's that coming from? Something pet me, something that wasn't moving. He's like freaking out, right? And at the end of it, he's like, I'm gonna need more dog treats.
Yeah,
for
I
this.
need more dog treats. And he's just thinking it over, you know?
And you go by and you see some like dog treats on the side, and if you click on it, it says someone's been smoking dog treats.
Yeah, because he's got it on the side like a cigar.
Yeah.
He's got it on the side of his mouth.
And then you have like
that is so fun.
Dogamy and Dogaressa. In that fight, you have to roll around in the dirt and snow to smell different, so that they'll think you're a puppy
and
by
then
your
they cuddle
smell.
with you. And,
yeah, and then you can pet them, and it's like their minds have been expanded. Wait a minute, a dog can pet another dog?
Dogs can pet other dogs. Yeah,
like,
it changes their whole
my whole
life.
world has been opened up to me now. Thank you for that.
Yes, and then they leave. It is so
Another enemy I really loved was Sunderplane. So Sundir is an anime term for like a girl who's really rough on the outside and acts really mean, but secretly she likes you. It's like a character type. It's like a trope for anime, right?
Yeah.
So this Sunderplane, right? If you flirt with it, you'll say things like, you have a really nice rudder, or like nice turbines or something like that. And she'll go, huh? You sicko? And then Sunderplane gives a condescending barrel roll. But if you go to the check part, you check its stats. Seems mean, but does it secretly like you? And then
I love it.
And then she'll say in response to that, no way, why would I like you, right? And then it'll say things like, Sunderplane accidentally bumps its wing into you. If you approach, because approach is an option in the act, there'll be like a green field around the plane, so you have to get close but not too close.
Oh yes, exactly.
To
Close,
touch
but
the
not too
green
close.
part, and then it'll just blush more and more and more the more you do that.
Yeah.
It's so hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
That's basically how all the fights are in this game, right? So
they're all jokes. They're all like stand-up comedy routines, and you just have
great.
to survive long enough to get through the jokes.
It's great.
And then
it's really great. So anyway, we're not going to like point to every example. There's literally thousands of them.
Yeah,
but
this game is extremely well.
Pretty much
very funny.
what you expect from it. It's very funny. It mostly works for me all the time. Okay, so you go back to Toriel's place with her after you solve some puzzles kind of on your own, and she's worried about. She gives you a cell phone so you can call her and talk to her. And there's a lot of good parts. Oh, you just wanted to call and talk to me?
You can flirt with her,
and
she says, oh, you can do better than an old woman. She doesn't.
You're not going there, right?
Yeah.
She's becoming more and more attached or endeared to this human. Go home with her. Here's your bedroom, and
here's your room.
Oh, she calls you. Do you like cinnamon or butterscotch more?
Which one?
And it's like, okay, you choose one. All right. And then she calls back, but that doesn't mean you don't like the other one, right?
Like, for instance, if there was the other one too, it would be okay. Like, okay, just checking. That's really funny.
Yes.
So she's the classic, like, she's kind of clumsy a little bit. She's just trying to make your stay comfortable.
Yes.
You do realize when you get to her house at some point that she expects you to stay there.
Yes,
and
forever.
that you want to move on with the game or go back home, either
Yes.
one. And she's like not wanting you to do that. But before we move on from her,
Yes.
and she's just an adorable old woman. I love her. But her shirt, she has a shirt with like a symbol on it.
Oh.
It's got a circle with 2 wings and then 3 triangles at the bottom. So there's one triangle is pointing up, the other one's pointing down, the other one's pointing up. So it's 2 ups but a down in the middle. Then there's a circle with wings, right? So a circle is like an angel, or it seems like
Sure.
a halo or something on the wings. So you've got like an angel motif with wings and a circle. And then at the bottom, I didn't know what this meant. It could be a claw, it could be teeth, like monster teeth, the triangles. But I took it to mean that there's one triangle pointing up, which is the above world, and then the next triangle down, which is the underworld, and then the last triangle up, which is the above world. So it's essentially this arc, except backward, upside down, so that you have the monsters were above, now they're below,
But they're going
They're
back
going to go
up.
back above, and this angel is the facilitator.
Well, they
of
talk about a
the
prophecy
move. There is
later
yes, and we will go
about
into
that.
that.
Yeah.
This symbol is the prophecy.
Yeah.
It basically is the prophecy. So, yeah, right at the beginning of the game. Very cool. I love how simple the symbol is, yet it conveys a lot of meaning. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yep.
The first time the term tsundere
Tsundere.
comes up is
Oh, yeah.
there's a cactus in one of the rooms or something, and you go and inspect it. It's a cactus, the most tsundere of plants or something like that.
Nice. That's great. That's right. She had a cactus in her
Yeah, in her room.
in her
I
room,
think.
or in her, something like that. Yeah, you can go inside of her room a bit.
Yeah.
You go to the kitchen, she's chilling. She was surprised, though, that we went through all of the stuff. She thought we were still staying there and
Right,
waiting. So she
right.
calls us when we get to her house, and she's like, "Hey, sorry, it took me a little longer," and we're already there. And she's like, "What?" She's freaking out. She doesn't want us to do anything crazy. She doesn't want us to get hurt. So she makes us the pie. We go to bed. We go to sleep.
And then she leaves
And then she leaves it.
the pie by the bed. I loved that touch.
It's so good. Even just thinking about this part of the game, it's very meaningful, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to explain why, because it's so silly.
There's a magical
But
feeling
the
to the game.
totality of the game, and I went through it 2 times. I played the game once, passive, and then I ended up watching the whole game again with my wife, because I was like, "You've got to get this, right?" And so we watched a gameplay of it, the whole game, and then knowing what's happening and how the game kind of goes, these moments are really special, and it
Yes.
feels so weird, but they are.
Yeah.
Somehow it's like, this shouldn't be. This is such. It just shouldn't be, but it is. So, anyways, you
If you
decide
insist,
you're going to leave.
if you insist on saying, "How can I go back up to the human world?"
Yeah.
She just starts to get a little irritated, and then she gets like, "I'm going to take care of something. Just stay here."
So she goes down to the basement.
You follow her down.
And of course, you follow her. Yeah.
And she's like basically warning you to stay away.
Yeah.
And she says,
don't go through the
if you
store.
keep coming this way, they're going to kill you. She says specifically the name Asgore. It's even highlighted in
Asgore.
red. Will kill
Yes.
you. Asgore is the king of this underground. We'll learn about later. But she's warning you, like, do not freaking do this.
Yeah.
And then she's going to break the door
She's gonna go break. Yeah.
that leads out of the ruins and into the wider underground,
right.
so that no one can leave again. So this has happened many times, because there have been
seems-
other human children
seems-
who have come
Yep.
and who she can't get them to stay. She can't convince them to stay. They always want to leave.
Yeah.
And she's tired of
And that's
people
rough.
leaving her alone.
Yep.
And she knows that they're going to die if they leave, and she feels the weight of that, right? So she's willing now to fight you,
Yep.
and it's kind of sad, because it's like she feels the sort of fatalistic, almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's not really anything she can do, but she can't go through this again.
Yes.
She can't lose another
It's
kid
hard on
again.
her, and
So
well, there's the hint that it's hard to explain. but
this
yes, yeah.
battle will prove either
It's actually
that
pretty hard.
you're strong enough
Yeah.
to survive out there, and
Or-
you'll kill me,
Yes.
So that I don't have to deal with this anymore.
That's more or less what she
Or
wants.
you're not strong enough,
Yeah.
and I will kill you myself. But what happens is she never intends to kill you.
Right.
She can't make herself do that, because if you get low enough on your HP,
She starts missing on purpose.
all of the things, even if you try to go into them, you can try on purpose to go
yeah.
hit them, and she
try.
won't. It won't hit.
They won't kill you.
They avoid you on purpose.
Yeah.
So what's really happening is she wants you to kill her.
Oh, so that was okay. That was a really hard battle.
Yes, but it's actually not.
But if I just let,
She won't kill you.
that's so dumb.
She won't kill you.
Okay, I thought I just lasted the time, and I get that that's what happened. I get that that's what happened, but that's so funny. That's
Yeah.
so funny. I didn't know that you could just get hit and then the battle's over.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so dumb.
And
Okay,
because it's a really long thing, it's like, I remember the first time I played this,
cool. Yeah,
I killed
kinda
Toriel
hard. Yes, I'd heard of that.
because
Before
you
I
can
played this game, I'd heard
keep
of that.
sparing and sparing and sparing and sparing, and it just
Yes.
goes on and on and on and
You
on
have to
and
be
on
very
and
persistent.
on. And you have to be so
Yeah.
persistent.
It basically locks you in. Like,
Yeah.
if you're that persistent of sparing her, you're going to spare everyone in the whole game. You're
Yeah.
going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And that's good.
So it's the first kind of major checkpoint, I would say, for what's called the pacifist
Yeah.
ending of the game, where you don't kill any monsters. You have to be pretty dedicated to that.
Pretty
if
dedicated.
That's what you want.
Yep. And if you can get through her, then you're going to
Yeah. So
be good.
you end up, she's just like insisting on, like, you have to fight me, you have to fight me, you have to fight me. Like, and you're like, nope, not going to do it. And at the end, she's like, fine, I'll let you go, but like, do me a favor and don't ever call me. Don't ever
don't come
come
back
back.
again.
I don't
She
ever
doesn't
want to
want
see
to
you again. I
talk to
want
us, yeah.
I want to know nothing about you ever.
She doesn't want to get close to us.
Nope. She's got to unattach herself from
Yeah.
us
She's
emotionally.
Yep.
So you find Flowey on the other side immediately after this. And this conversation goes both ways too. If you kill Toriel, it's one way. If you didn't kill anything, it's another way. It's like, I see. So you think you're so clever and that you can just get through this without killing things. We'll see if that's the case. Like, this will be a lot of fun, kind of a sentiment, right? And then he goes on his way. So he's kind of watching you.
Then you're in like a
So,
foresty kind
Yeah,
of
we've
place,
moved
right?
on from the Toriel or tutorial section of the game into what I call the Sands and Papyrus
Yes,
Arc.
exactly.
I kind of think of it
So
like an
you-
anime show where they have arcs, right?
That's right. Like each, yeah. So you're walking through kind of like a forest area, and this dark, shaded shadow figure approaches from behind, and it's all super creepy. And you turn around and
Shake my hand.
shake my hand. And as soon as you do it, the whoopee cushion goes. And that is when this note, what the heck is going on? As soon as we meet Sans and the whoopee cushion goes and he's got that, his voice sounds just like the funniest. Like,
Yeah.
you remember Banjo-Kazooie? How
Yes, it sounds like a Banjo-Kazooie
It's like
thing.
a Banjo-Kazooie thing,
Totally
but it's
does.
the funniest sound. And it's
Yeah.
just, he's just laughing all the time. And at that point, I was like, I can't, I don't know what to do. And that's when I wrote, what the heck is going on? I don't know how to analyze this game.
Yeah.
So, holy cow.
Whoopee cushion in the
It
hand
is
trick.
so funny, yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so Sans and Papyrus, of course, are references to the Comic Sans
Comic
font
Sans.
and the Papyrus font.
Yes.
And they speak in those fonts.
In those
So those
fonts,
fonts
yeah,
are
yeah.
their text.
And then Comic Sans is just fun.
This was
Papyrus is
actually
lame.
inspired by a web comic or something
Oh,
that
really?
Toby Fox had read, where there was
Ah.
a skeleton character named Helvetica, and so it was the Helvetica font. So
that's
he
funny.
kind of borrowed from that for these characters when he made them. I think Papyrus was originally going to be Times New Roman, and he was going to be more
really?
like of a real kind of like soldier guy, not like a
Roman soldier.
poser.
Yeah.
Trying to become one.
That's funny.
But like a real one, but that got kind of dropped partway through. But Times New Roman was going to be the original character.
Gotcha. Oh, that's funny.
Read that. So Papyrus is the brother who wants respect and admiration and friends, and he's looking for a way to like move up in the world, right, and become
Yes.
part of the royal guard. And so he thinks he's got to capture a human in
Yes.
order to be able to do this. Sans doesn't care about anything. Sans is just a lazy, fun-loving guy, and just doesn't really care about stuff. So he's supposed to be watching for humans. But like as soon as you find one, he just becomes
playing
friends with
jokes
it.
and becomes friends. Yeah.
And so he's like, hey, step through these bars. Again, he doesn't just let any joke be a one-off thing.
Yeah.
The bars are
My
spread
brother
too
made them
far
too
away,
wide.
so you can just
Yeah.
walk through the bars.
Yeah.
Which comes up again later if you fight Papyrus and he defeats you.
Yeah.
He locks you in his barn, and there's bars in there, but they're too wide, so you can just walk out.
That's great.
So,
I love that.
Anyways, go hide behind that conveniently shaped lamp, which is
Yes.
exactly the shape of our character
Yeah.
profile.
Oh, it's so funny.
Papyrus comes walking up. Hey, have you seen any humans? You're slacking or whatever. No, you want to check out that lamp?
Yes.
No, I don't have time for that right
I don't
now.
have time, and he leaves.
Anyways, so the whole arc here is kind of like Papyrus sets up tons of traps to try to
Tons.
capture you.
Yes.
But they all fail.
They
'cause
all
he
fail.
overlooks or doesn't really set them up correctly.
Right, or just by chance, like that color square one.
Yeah,
it's so
the
funny.
ra-
It's like if
random.
you're on a red square, that's this thing. If you're on the blue square, but then you'd hit an orange one first, then it's bad. But if you hit a pink one first, then it's okay. And it's like this complicated rule set.
Yes.
And then he says it's a randomly generated,
Yes.
sequence. In which case, what you see would fit into a randomly
Yes,
generated
it was
sequence.
one of the
and it's just burnt a
billions
pathway.
of
Yeah.
just creates a pink pathway for you to just walk
you
straight
just
across.
walk right past.
No
and then
danger.
He's like, dang it. Ah, man.
Just foiled again.
Yet throughout the whole thing, Sans keeps telling us, like, hey, my brother's so cool. Thanks for doing this for him. I
Yep.
really like him. He's happy.
He's having
We're
fun.
having fun. This
Yeah.
is good. Keep doing it, and
Yeah.
like it'll be okay. He's basically telling us we're probably not going to die.
Yeah.
Papyrus isn't capable of killing people, but just play along.
Yeah, and I like the one with the shock walls that are invisible. And he's holding the thing. It's what
And-
shocks him first. He's like, wait a
Yes.
minute, I need you to hold this. And he walks the path
Through the path.
that
That is
leaves
so funny.
footprints and he gives it to you and he walks back and then you just walk the same path he walked. How did you figure it out?
Then there's the one where it's what is it? A crossword puzzle or something?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you should have done Junior
You
Jumble.
should have
It's
done
harder.
Junior Jumble. It's harder. And then you pick which one, and you pick Junior Jumble. Then Sans says, "Hey, thanks for picking my brother's one." Like,
Even
made
though
him
it's
happy.
not harder
Yeah,
than
clearly
crossword.
Sans is the more competent brother,
Yes.
but the less driven to do anything and
Yes.
just wants to tell jokes all the
Oh,
time.
that even goes
So
to
funny.
there's a spot where if you fall through the ice, there's a snowman of Papyrus that's like
Oh.
really well made.
Did I see that?
It's like really well made. It looks just like
Yeah.
him. And then there's just a lump of snow with the word sand written on it.
That's
So
great.
like that's Sans' lazy version
Yes.
of a snow sculpture of himself.
snow sculpture.
He just threw some snow into a lump.
Well, and then Papyrus is very vain, right?
Yes.
He likes his self-image and all that.
Yeah.
So that's very endearing. You end up just loving both these characters very, very quickly. It doesn't
Yeah.
take long at all.
I love the battle against the greater dog. So
Oh my gosh.
It's just a little lump of snow and a little
Yeah.
dog head and a little
With
tail
the
comes
tail.
out. And then it like stands up and it's
Yeah.
like this giant freaking thing in a
With
massive
these like
armor.
muscle arms and stuff.
And it's got this really funny music.
Oh, it's so good.
And the way that it wants attention. It's like
Yes.
really excited.
Yeah.
So like if you ignore it, it just gets closer and closer and closer to the screen until it's just like its eyes like looking at you, like wanting you to pet it like so bad. Like all the dog enemies that you fight here,
They're just so
they get overly excited.
You
There's
just pet
one
them.
where you keep petting it and it just keeps getting so excited its neck just keeps growing like beyond the screen and like comes back down over here and like around this way. It's just like getting so crazy, you know?
yes. And dogs are more or less like that, so it's
Yeah.
so funny.
Like, and this is kind of the point I wanted to bring up about the humor in this game. Like,
Yeah.
humor and comedy is so much about making astute observations about and having a great social awareness and being
yes, of
able
course.
to observe the things in our society, the things that we do that are absurd or ridiculous or relatable,
Yeah.
and then present those things in a story that has an arc and a beginning, middle, and end that leads
Yeah.
to a punchline.
Yes.
You set up
Yes,
that
it's a setup and a
punchline.
punchline.
Yes. And
a
he
payoff,
is
yeah.
fetching brilliant at those little things,
Yeah.
making those little observations about what it's like to have a dog. I mean, he turned essentially what the experience of a dog who wants you to pet it too much
Yes.
into a boss fight.
He turned it into a boss fight.
Like I've had a dog like that where the dog just will
I
never
remember.
ever give up trying to
know.
get you to pet the dog.
Just crazy.
I please keep petting me.
Yes.
It's never enough. You could pet that dog for 3
is
hours, and if you
so
take your
funny.
hand off, please don't
Just like,
stop.
please pet me again. Yes.
Like anyone who's had a dog like that, right, had that experience,
Yes.
that was turned into a boss fight. That's what this boss fight
and that's
against the greater
incredible.
dog is.
And how do how do you like state the impossibility of such a task and how cool it is that he was able to do that.
Yeah.
And how I've never seen anyone do that before.
And how do you get your dog to stop begging you to pet it? You've got to just ignore it as hard as it is.
Yeah.
And you've got to ignore the greater dog, and he keeps getting closer and closer, and please, please, please. And you ignore it, and then eventually it'll like stop bugging you. That's a boss fight in this game. It's crazy.
And so it makes you feel like your everyday interactions with your dog is like a boss fight.
Yes.
It's like it's a battle of wills.
Yes.
Between you and your dog.
Yes.
Oh, I love it, man.
It's
too
awesome.
Good.
It's just really clever. It's extremely clever. It's just wanting affection, like way too much, right? Okay, so after that fight, you get into Snowdin. It's like the village.
Yeah.
This is one of the many ways that Toby Fox wanted to challenge some RPG conventions that don't make a lot of sense. So if you go into the shop and you try to sell your equipment, they won't buy things from you.
Yeah.
They
think it's funny that you're.
If I started spending money on old branches and used bandages, I'd be out of business.
Exactly, I'd be out of business. Yeah.
Like, why would I buy that from you?
Yes.
Right? Now, there's only one village in the entire game that will buy things from you. And that's Temmie Village.
Temmie, that's
the freaking moron Temmie.
The backwards Temmie
will
upside down
buy
world.
stuff from you.
Yes.
And they'll buy stuff from you for a pretty high price because they value things in ways other people don't.
The Temmie, talk about the idea of
an overexcited
dog or a
dog.
cat, kind of mixing that putting them into the world as if they were autonomous and they
had their own village.
Instead of the whole like survival of the fittest, they were like nice the way they are around humans, but just with each other all the time. It's so fun. I just love that. Temmie are perfect. They're so
yeah, I really like that though. Like you can't sell stuff to me. I'm here to sell stuff to you. Like I'm not going to buy your stuff. It makes no sense.
Yes.
So that was kind of funny. I like the little yellow kid. He actually
dinosaur?
He ends up being like a character later, but he says, "Yo, you're a kid too, right?" I could tell because you have a striped shirt.
Yeah, the striped shirt. That's a freaking NES.
Yeah, it's
Earthbound. That's like an Earthbound
I know.
All the kids have striped shirts. Oh, it's so funny.
There's a house there where you knock on it and you hear from inside, "Ah, what a beautiful knock. If I don't answer, maybe I'll hear it again."
Oh my gosh!
It's just
see, and anytime it's like, oh, you always wanted to go in the house. There's certain houses in RPGs you can't go in, right? It's like, oh, I wonder what that looks like inside, right? And well, you limit the person's ability to go into houses because you don't want to design a different interior for every house.
Sure.
Well, so games do that. But this game, they give you a payoff.
Yes.
So instead of going to a door and like, oh man, I can't get in, they give you a comedic payoff for your attempt at going to the door. Just at all.
We talked,
and that'll keep you doing that. You want to go to all the doors now because it's like even if you can't get in, there's still a value. There's a payoff that other games don't give you.
We talked about in the Metal Gear Solid podcast series how the tone of that game works because of a social awareness and a self-awareness.
Yeah, self-awareness. This game is
Hideo Kojima
so
has.
self-aware. It's unbelievable.
And we talk about Kung Fury. The reason why the comedy in that works is because you can tell the director knows the material he's parodying.
Very well. Yeah.
Like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
He understands the structure, and so he knows perfectly how to make these things into jokes.
Yeah.
That's exactly why this game works. You can tell Toby Fox has played hundreds of Super Nintendo RPGs
many times.
and adventure games, and knows exactly where to put something like that and for what reason to do it.
Yes. And he turns what would otherwise be a frustrating experience into a pleasant, enjoyable experience.
Yes. It's amazing.
Like, oh man, I can't go in that house, I'm upset. Like, he doesn't let you feel that about almost anything in this entire game, where you're like, dang it, I was hoping I could do something and such and such. Part of that is because he destroys your expectations of what the game will do, because you have no idea what to expect, because this game is so different from any game that's ever been made. But also part of that is because it's just funny, and even going somewhere that you shouldn't be, there's a joke, there's a payoff, there's a reward every time. Yes,
it's fantastic. Nothing is just a one-off thing. Everything is a setup to a greater payoff later. Every joke. So then you fight Papyrus, and I really liked this because they've set up Papyrus this whole time to be kind of a bumbling fool. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He kind of like messes up everything he tries to do. and you're fighting him, and it sort of seems that way again. Even like the battle is like, this is really easy, right? And Sans was trying to warn you about the blue attack he's going to do, right?
Oh, right.
He's like, make sure you understand blue attacks, which, as far as we know, you just hold still.
Yeah.
But then they turn that on its head in the battle because he turns your heart blue. Like, that's
right.
my attack. And then it gets hard.
Yeah.
Because you got to be jumping over these things, and it's like it's like a whole new mechanic, a whole new like gimmick to this battle, and it's actually kind of tough.
Yeah.
It's not an easy fight. But if you lose, he puts you in the shed, and his bars for his jail are too wide, so you can just walk through them and you go do it again. But it gets to a point where if you can't beat it, because the pacifist route is kind of like the hard mode of the game, eventually he'll just say, you don't have to fight me, and you can just like skip that fight.
That's funny. I didn't.
But if you do get past it, he just like is, he's exhausted. But one of the actions you can do in there is flirt. So you can flirt with Papyrus, and he starts going like, "Oh, like you like me? Like we'll go on a date later, like after the fight." And he starts thinking about like, what should I wear? And he starts like putting on like cologne or like he's like thinking about this date as he's fighting you.
That's so funny, dude.
So when the battle's over and he realizes like, oh, I can't be friends with you. I have to like capture you.
I have to, yeah.
But it's like, no, like I'll be your friend, and then you'll have the friend you've always wanted. And he's like,
yes,
you're right. Like this is the greatest thing. Who knew that all I had to do to make friends was put them through really bad traps and fight them? And he goes back home.
Yeah.
So you can go back there and actually initiate the date sequence, which is really funny. You kind of go in and look at all this stuff in his house.
Yeah.
And you go up into his room.
Sans is there.
Sans is in the other room.
He's being just hilarious. oh my gosh. The date itself is just hysterical.
It's done in the style of a Phoenix Wright game.
Oh,
so the music feels like Phoenix Wright.
Yeah.
And like whenever you confront him with an answer, it's just like in Phoenix Wright when you cross-examine the witness and you point out the contradiction, they go like, oh my gosh, in their face like. So it's all kind of parodying that.
Yeah.
And it's just great because like he'll say things like, I have really high standards, and you'll be like, I can make spaghetti. Oh my gosh, you're meeting all my standards.
That's right.
Because he's obsessed with spaghetti, right? That's another thing we kind of skipped at all the save points.
We skipped out the save points, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of my other notes, one of my very few other notes.
You're filled with determination.
Fills you with determination, which is so funny, that knowing that the mouse will one day come out of its hole and get the cheese fills you with determination. And then knowing that the mouse will figure out how to plug in the microwave.
Up the spaghetti in the microwave fills you with determination.
It's very funny.
But that's
once again, there's a point later on for it. That's essentially he introduces Papyrus's obsession with spaghetti there at that save point. So he loves spaghetti, and then he like, you need to dress special to show someone you care about them when you go on a date. And if you got the ribbon from earlier, he'll be like, oh, have you been thinking about dating me this whole time? I know.
Well, don't worry, you're not better at dating than me.
Yeah, I'm better at dating than you.
And he comes in with like a
There's
cool
like a
dude shirt.
too, and
He comes in with a shirt that says cool dude, and he's got a hat on, and he's like got different clothes.
Because he looks up, he doesn't know what to do on a date.
Yes.
And it's like first rule of date, get dressed. And he's like, oh, I can do that. So he goes and gets dressed. He's like, all right, now what do we do?
I bet you can't figure out my secret. And then that's also a Phoenix Wright thing because you're using a cursor to like click on things. Because that's what you do on the DS screen. You kind of like click on something, and it'll like examine it, right? So like you examine his hat and he's got a present inside that has spaghetti in it.
That's right. But it looks like a brain.
You eat the spaghetti or whatever, and you can say it's good even though it's not. Oh, you enjoy my cooking.
Oh my gosh.
You're like defeating him in the date by being better at complimenting and like liking him than he is at liking you.
And he's just trying so hard to win. He just wants to win at the date. Oh, it's so funny.
And in the end, he essentially comes, listen, I'm trying really hard to like you, but I just don't like you like that.
Yeah,
so can we just be friends?
Yes. Oh, I love it though. You go on the date and you sit down to watch TV on his couch.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, this is my favorite show. It's so good. And it's just like this nothing show. And he's like, oh, usually it's better than this. Oh, darn it. Oh, like this episode sucks. And like, it's so funny because
it's relatable.
How often have you had an experience like that?
You've tried to show somebody something you really like, and it's not as good, and you think that they're judging you for it.
Oh, it's just this one part.
This is just the wrong thing to show you. I promise you it's better than this.
I was showing my uncle, who lived in Japan for years, I was showing him an episode of Cowboy Bebop because I was like, this show's so good. And we were watching it in Japanese with subtitles. This was maybe 10 years ago.
One of the filler
episodes. And it just
episodes.
so happened to be, well, it wasn't, it was a very, there was stuff going on in the show that just made me really like awkward and feel really weird about watching it with my uncle. And like we ended up watching something else because I was like, it's usually different than that. It was basically the exact same thing as this game. This game took that experience and like put it in just the funniest little vignette, you know. So funny.
That, I mean, again, another example of why the humor works. Like, it's about really good observation and social awareness from the comedian, right?
Very much so.
And it's the same thing just with storytelling in general. Like, your characters you create. Like, everything is about your observations of real life and social awareness of, like, how people really are. And how can you then take that and put that in the story in a way that's convincing and believable and that relates to people's experience so that they can feel the emotions and you know the message that you're trying to get across. The comedy and storytelling are essentially the same thing.
It's the same like
principles,
yeah,
structure, arc. It's just you're trying to get people to laugh, or you're trying to get people to feel sad in a drama, or excited in an action flick or something like that.
It's basically the same principle.
You're trying to manipulate an emotion. And you do that by telling a story and setting up and paying off and everything else.
And making it, the more relatable you can make it, the more impact it'll have.
Yes.
Also, you got Sans, who every now and then he'll open his door just to say something funny and then shut the door. He's like the brother when you got the siblings, like the sister is on
girlfriend
a date,
over.
and then the brother comes out and has his funny little thing. Anyways, it was just so, it was too good. It was too good.
It's awesome. Okay, so we're running low on time, so we're not going to be able to get through the entire, what's her name? The
Undine, is that the next part?
Undine, yeah.
Undine.
The arc for Undine, that's kind of the next arc, right?
Yeah.
She's like the captain of the Royal Guard that Papyrus is trying to get into. So, like, as you leave Snowdin, you go into the next area, she's the one who's kind of chasing you down. It's like the next big boss of that boss of that section of the game, and so we'll get into that a little bit more next time. But you'll have to wait a month, I guess, for when the next episode comes out. When this goes public on the channel, it'll probably be just the next week. But anyways, hopefully you guys are enjoying this so far. There's a lot more to dive into. And the next episode will probably be a little longer, but we just got to get Kason to the train station, so we're going to leave off there. So, okay. Peace out, guys. We'll see you next month. Thank you to all of our patrons and subscribe stars who make the channel possible. It's been growing a lot, and we just really, really love the support. I have some announcements I'm going to make as for when streaming is coming back, because we've hit that stretch goal.
Oh, cool.
And I've just been so hellishly busy with my new job the month of June and July, but they're actually giving me some extra paid time off because of it in August.
Nice. Wow, most companies wouldn't do that.
I know. This company's amazing. I got really, I'm so glad that I went with this company. I had a couple of others making offers, and I'm glad I went with this one. So I'm going to have some time to get some preparations made. I went back to an old animation I did. Remember of the controller that shifts from my first look videos?
Yeah, that was cool,
I pulled that back up. I'm going to rename it into a random encounters show, which is about randomly selecting an RPG I haven't played and streaming that, and that being like the weekly kind of stream thing.
That'll be good.
I'm working on that, and so I'm going to do an update on Patreon for you guys so you know kind of where I'm at with that and when that'll come back. It's going to be soon. I know I should have done it already like a month ago because we hit that goal a while ago. I've just been way too busy at work, and that's going to slow down for the next half of the year. So, okay, with all that said, thank you for all your support. We'll see you again soon. Peace out.
Peace.